And Eric, at the end, I may need you to just hit that X. Okay, so we are Justin's Lighthouse Thursday Night Family Group. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Um, yeah, come on in. You're good. Just take your time. We got a spot for you. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about why, I forgot what I titled it, why the addict lives a life of extremes and how families can respond differently. Okay, so some of you guys that have been with us for a while, you'll recognize this. We're really going to delve into the shameful, shameless dynamic, but we're going to cover it in a little bit different way, starting with page 13. Okay, what this material is from is this ebook we've been working on for a while, and it looks completely different than the original. But this is available for free for all of our current families. So if you don't have a copy of this, just reach out to Tina and she'll link it to you. One of the reasons why it's taken me so long is I really just did it as kind of a companion to teach along with it. And it's so I know, like, as you go through it by yourself, there still might be a lot of things that are difficult to understand. So, but if you're part of the group, you get all this information anyway. We just give it in different pieces. So, get a copy of it, read it, reread it, study it, ask questions about it. Keep watching on Thursday nights, because it will all come crystal clear to you. Okay, so one of the things I want to start off with is 7 biggest mistakes families make. Okay, this is kind of a good intro to what we're talking about. Remember why addicts live a life of extremes. But let's start with family position first. And these aren't like the top 7 or anything like that. They're just 7 big ones that I've recognized over the years, including my family. We all do this. We say yes when we mean no. We say, this is the last time, and then we rescue again. We believe the stories from our loved one about always being a victim. Well, I got fired because the boss, they were being mean to me there, or I couldn't pay the rent because there was this person and I helped them get their car fixed, and it's never the patient's fault of what's going on in their life, when in reality it's absolutely our fault. Number 4, we think that if only we can change their situation, then they'll be great. Number 5, we believe when the addict says, I really mean it this time, never again, I don't even think about drinking, I really want to do this time. And the reason that doesn't work is because addiction is not a willpower issue. Number 6, we believe as families, if we just catch them up on their bills, take away all of their stress, then they'll succeed, because the only time they seem to have difficulty is when they're under such tremendous stress. So if we can just take away their stress, which sounds very rational, that sounds like a very logical thing to do. And that's why it's easier for families to do it. We're just responding to what we're seeing. And what we see is a lot of disorganization, self-defeating behavior, a lot of stress and anxiety. And so as family members, as loving family members, we want to take that away, which isn't a bad thing, but it will not affect change. 7, as family members, we tend to absorb most of the consequences from the addict's behavior, whether it's their life consequences, legal consequences, financial consequences, whatever it is, we're there cleaning up the messes. And that's the rescuing. And so this is the time where we all get to hit the pause button and recognize, even though all the things that families do are amazing, and what a blessing, because I've worked with plenty of people over the years that didn't have any family. But it's interesting, just while I'm on it, I'll elaborate on this. It's interesting because even people who don't have families, they still behave in the same way. They just learn how to manipulate, say, the government system. So it's the exact same behavior, and the government can't fix us, our families can't fix us. We have to take responsibility, and that's when change occurs. And families can play a huge role in that. It's not required for the addict to get better, but it is, as you guys know. I was reading. I don't know if there's any statistics. I mean, I have my own statistics, and I would say the success rate changes from about 60% to 95% when families are involved. When families, and all that means is just families are willing to educate themselves, to take a look at some of the things that we've been doing as family members that aren't working, and what does work, what actually works. And that usually kind of goes against our feelings, and so we can be very uncomfortable in making those changes. Okay, now I'm going to jump all the way to page 41, and I got to kind of speed this up because our final ones, we're going to spend some time on it. 41. There's so much good stuff in here. Not yet. We're coming back to that one. 41. Sorry. Taking me so long. Every family's nightmare. Okay, the reason I wanted to put this in here tonight is because I want us as patients to really understand the impact that we're having. And not from a perspective of shame, but from breaking that denial. I'm not hurting anybody but myself. I don't see what the big deal is. If only I could, then I'd be okay. We get stuck in that thinking. That's what denial thinking is. Now, we need to really understand what we're doing and then own that from a place of responsibility and humanness, not reject it from a place of shameful, shameless. And that's where we're leading next after this slide. So, every family's nightmare. Only people who have experienced addiction can relate to these. And these are all actual cases that I personally have experienced, or I've heard other people share their stories, and it's a pretty good. I mean, if we took like a survey, we'd probably come up with maybe 500 of these examples. But here's what it looks like. This is the nightmare of our families. Finding us unconscious on the floor. Never before seen rage. Finding plastic baggies, needles, pills, empty bottles, a closet full of empty beer cans. The long periods of time that we've gone without any contact, not knowing if we're dead or alive. Watching us, the addict, throw away all of our dreams, one class, one job at a time. Or we could say one pill at a time, or one drink at a time. Broken promises and missing money, wrecked cars, stepping into an alcoholic home with odors so gross you have to step back outside just to catch your breath. Scenes that require a hazmat crew. That may seem dramatic, but like I said in the beginning, only people who've experienced this can relate to this, because this is real. Liquor bottles strewn about, blood trails that you follow through the house, certain that at the end of that blood trail you're going to find your dead loved one. The phone ringing late at night, convinced this is the call, this is the one. Watching the slow deterioration of a child you raised to be a superstar. The pain from seeing your loved one seemingly not care about their family or themselves. The multiple attempts at treatment, the high hopes that this time will be different, only to watch them fail again. Hearing professionals say for the 10th time, well, your addict just doesn't want sobriety enough, right? That's kind of the go-to clinical CYA. That's a whole other story. You guys have heard me talk about that. The majority of clinicians tend to hide behind that. They don't tend to take responsibility for what they're doing, what they're teaching, their role in that relationship. It's just, here's a little bit of information. We hope you do well. And if you fail, then they just say, well, you just didn't want it bad enough. I've never met an addict or an alcoholic who who wanted to keep drinking. We may say that, but that's just a defense mechanism. The heartbreak of having to kick your adult child out of your home to protect the rest of the family and property. Losing the family business because the addict embezzled your life's work. That's a true story. That's an actual case that we worked with. The dark moments when you pray for them to die in their sleep or be arrested. Anything to stop their madness. The constant state of needing to fix them. Watching them take 3 days to run a 20-minute errand. That's like a dead giveaway. Hey, I just need the car. I just need the car for a minute. I got to go run a quick errand, and then we show back up a week later, messed up out of our minds. Okay, so let me. Now we're gonna go backwards to page 16, and this is where it's gonna start getting good. Okay, so why does the addict live a life of extremes? Trauma shapes identity and behavior, and we're not really delving into trauma, but just remember, between the ages of about 8 and 14, the person's perception of what they're experiencing is pretty well solidified. It doesn't have to be reality, and that's what trips up a lot of people when we bring up the topic of trauma, because we want to think trauma is situational. And so we hear that word trauma and we say, oh, no, there's no trauma to see. We had a great life, great this, got to do everything we ever wanted, excelled at this, excelled at that. So there's nothing to see here. And those people are the ones that stay sick and they never get better. Trauma refers to a person's perception. It's what they think is happening in that experience. And that's why we can look to really dramatic life experiences and not carry any of that with us, because your mind can make sense of it. Your mind can say, wow, that's really tragic. My best friend stepped out in front of a bus and now he's dead and we're never going to see him again. And you can grieve that and you be sad for a while and you talk with your friends and family about it, but you're moving and grieving your way through it because your brain understands what happened. What really impacts us on the trauma scale is having experiences where we're interpreting it from an emotional perspective. And we generally arrive at the final conclusion, I'm not good enough. Whatever that is, it doesn't matter what the experience is. It only takes that perception that, well, I'm not getting something that I want, which means I'm not good enough. And that would be the shameful part of the spectrum. And then the other side is well, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to get everything I want. And that's the shameless side of the spectrum. And I'll get to that in a minute. So trauma is rarely handled effectively in clinical treatment. Yeah. But it's the unresolved trauma that keeps the addict stuck in this shameful, shameless dynamic. So the person literally is swinging from this deep down rooted belief that they're not good enough, I'm no good, and compensating with that by trying to be perfect. And when I say be perfect, I mean basically have everything they want, get everything they want when they want it. That's the defense mechanism. It feels safe there. As long as I'm getting everything I want when I want it, then I feel good enough. That's why when we hear the word no, when the addict hears the word no, we don't respond well, because what we think, when we hear the word no, what we're hearing is you don't love me. And then we can get into the associations of that. We absolutely equate things with love, and that's a whole different lecture topic. So here we are, we're stuck. We live this life of emotional extremes, followed by these behavioral extremes. We're either feeling less than or trying to perform more than. And that doesn't mean we're accomplishing. That is where our accomplishments come from when we're in shameless mode. But there's an anger, there's a flavor of anger to it. I'm going to show them. And then we'll pull a little something off, and then we feel good enough. But it's a wrong orientation, right? It's not. We're not striving to succeed for the sake of success. We're striving to succeed to not be less than. So we stay stuck. It will never move us forward. The cycle continues. We get stuck in this. On the slide, it says go to rehab. It doesn't have to be go to rehab. It just be whatever it is. Go to the relief mechanism, and then we feel better, and then we somehow either destroy or leave that relief mechanism, and then we relapse. And we go to rehab, we feel better, we leave rehab, relapse. We, whatever. In my case, it was always, get a new place, do good for a while, feel really good, and then I'd screw it up. And then relapse. But usually the relapse was part of the screwing it up. Okay, so these are the trauma points that are stored in the addict's memory. So now in early recovery, these things are still driving the person. Nobody understands me. All or nothing attitude, right? Either I get what I want when I want it, or forget it. I'll never speak to you again, kind of thing. We pout a lot, but we don't think we're pouting. We become very compulsive. Whatever is in front of us, we just want more and more and more and more and more and more and more of it. And the impulsivity. Remember the difference. Impulsivity is now, and compulsivity is more. And blaming is a big part of that. These are automatic responses. So whenever something's not going our way, we're not getting something that we want, we're not getting enough attention, we don't feel loved, all of these things is what got developed in the addict's brain, and so it's basically default mode. It's automatic, and that's why, like on here also is anger outbursts. That's why anger outbursts can become very commonplace. But like we were talking about last week, what happens next when the patient engages in really dramatic behavior? What happens next? Whether we're faking a psychotic episode or a seizure or whatever, we're screaming at everybody. What happens next, or what has happened next? We get off the hook, right? Everything. And that's why we did that whole thing on what an actual seizure looks like last week, and what a fake one looks like, and what actual psychosis looks like, and what fake psychosis looks like, because addicts will learn how to manipulate everything, and we do it very well. As an addict, as a recovering addict, I can tell you, I always used to work the heck out of my asthma. I didn't have asthma past I pretty much had grown out of it by the time I was 20, but I still was milking it. At 30, I was still milking, I'm having an asthma attack. You never see these behaviors when we have everything that we want. Now think about that. Remember, in substance abuse and trauma, our brain has been rewired, and so the patient sees themselves differently. The patient sees the world differently. They're interpreting their experience or their environment differently than people who haven't been putting poison on their brain for 20 years. And so it comes down to the next 15 seconds. Do I have everything I'm wanting in the next 15 seconds? And so whatever that might be, if I have it, if I feel safe, which means I feel loved, then I'm good. You'll never see an anger outburst or a faked seizure or complaining or anything in that moment, in that little short period of time. The question is what does the next 15 seconds look like? And then the next 15 seconds. We never seem to have these problems when everything is right. Pay attention to that, family members. Well, and I mean, we do too. Addicts need to pay attention to that too. Trauma isn't about what actually happened. It's about what you think happened. And I'll just leave it at that because we're heading to a different slide. Let's see. Okay, so fear is behind all trauma impacts. And this will make more sense once I cover this, and I'll cover it quickly. We all have three basic fears that we operate out of. Well, with addicts, with people who live a dysfunctional life, they don't have to be substance abusers, but most are. We're not just responding to basic fears, they're governing our whole decision making. And you got to understand what that looks like. So these are also the only three things we ever get angry about. Okay, so when I'm not getting something that I want and I respond in anger, I'm not really, think about some of the silly things that we've all seen. I think about some of the silly things that I've just lost it over. But it came down to, well, I thought the person parked 1 inch closer to my car than he should have, or, whatever, road rage things. Because it's not really about the thing. We're not really angry about the thing that we're talking about. We're responding to trauma. We're responding to this lie that we're believing it means I'm not loved right now, or I don't belong right now, or I'm not good enough right now. That's what we're fighting against. But what happens is especially in the family dynamic, we'll say we can express a whole lot of anger about something, and then that becomes the focus. Well, what's Miles tearing up the walls for? Why is Miles so upset? Well, he's upset because someone, whatever, his brother took his bike to his friends, and then we go and we discipline the brother for borrowing the bike, and it's not about the bike. And that's why those kind of family responses never really resolve the problem, because it was never about the bike. It was about belonging, safety, security, love. So the first basic fear is not getting something that we want or need. We can be material things, but rarely is it. Not when we're having an experience where we believe that we're not getting something that we want or need, like love, honesty, respect, safety, security, belonging, etc., 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 then we don't know what to do. So we react. Anger is the defense mechanism that we use to cover up the fears. The second one is losing something we thought we had. So you're having, let's just take like maybe a typical day experience with our loved one, and everything's going good, and we're running around and we're shopping, and we're getting some shoes, and we're gonna run over here, and we're gonna get a new suit, and we're gonna go pick out a new whatever, and everything's going good because the addict feels loved, even though that's not what's happening. The addict has never not been loved. The addict is always being loved, but not in the addict brain. The addict brain is associating things with love, getting what they want. But then at the end of the day, we got one last demand. I want to stop and get some ice cream. And a family says, we just can't do it. We've been at this since 7 this morning. We're exhausted. We've done all we can, and we just need to go home and eat some food and go to bed. And that is a loss of love, or a perceived fear of loss of love. And in those situations, you tend to see a bigger anger outburst. And now let me throw this in there. It's one extreme or the other. So some of us might respond with just huge anger outbursts. Some of us can also respond in the same way, only we go the opposite direction. Right? We just disappear. We just quit talking. We do the silent treatment, and we go and hide out and isolate. Whatever feels safest, whatever got reinforced over the years, that's what we stick with because it worked, but it didn't really work. But that's the sick thinking of the rewired brain. We think it's working. And then the third one is getting caught for something that we did, which is basically just being found out, our humanness. This is the biggest part of early recovery, is we're so afraid to get honest with ourselves about ourselves because what we think that means. Right? If I really get honest about myself, then that's going to mean everyone's going to really see me as a loser. So I just got to pretend like I'm not a loser. And so we just stay in these both of these lies. Shameful, shameless is a lie, or known as the double-sided lie, which I'm going to go straight there now. If I can find the page. 34. Okay, let's go to 34. So what's this dynamic that we're talking about? And you guys have seen it. often, but I know people watching on Facebook, or I'm sorry, YouTube has not seen this yet, and so, oh man, where did it go? There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. So remember, shameful is I'm not good enough, and shameless is that this belief that I have to be more than to be enough. And so we live both of these are lies. We're not less than, and we don't need to perform more than. What's missing is human. We don't know how to be human. Shameful is less than human. Shameless is more than human. And so we shift back and forth, back and forth. I don't feel loved. I'm going to demand whatever until I feel loved. Let's look at the left-hand column. So this is what's shameful. This is what's going on inside of the addict, the patient, our loved one. This deep down belief that we're not good enough. We feel unacceptable, deficient, something's wrong with us. You know, it doesn't, unless the person is a sociopath, then, and there are a few, it's very low. I know that's kind of a trendy thing online now. Everybody's a narcissist and a sociopath, but that's just not true. We can have some tendencies, but the overwhelming majority of addicts and alcoholics are just people who struggle behaviorally and emotionally, understand that the way they're living, the way they're handling life isn't right. And so feeling deficient, not good enough, something's wrong with me is always there. I've heard people use the word loathing, like self-loathing. That's a very dark place to be, and we need to understand what we're actually dealing with, because what we tend to see is either one extreme or the other, and we don't understand the dynamic of it, but they're always together at the same time. We feel like a disappointment. We are disappointed. We're disappointed in ourselves. We're disappointed in any progress. We can blame other people and feel disappointed in them. Inadequate, helpless, the family rebel. Even though no one's ever said that to us, maybe sometimes you might have grown up hearing that. Man, you're just the family rebel. You always gotta disrupt everything, which isn't healthy, but it could be a part of a person's experience. The second-class citizen, that's huge. Second-class citizen, what does that imply? That we just don't even belong in society. So all this is going on inside the user. When I do this group with the guys, this is the part where I always say, it's no wonder, of course we became addicts and alcoholics. This is miserable. This person needs some relief. We just didn't understand how to achieve that in healthy ways. And so we've defeated ourselves for so many years, maybe decades for some of us. But when we're stuck in shameful mode, there are no expectations, none whatsoever. Whatever happens, happens. I don't care. But remember, like we talked about last week, we can only maintain a I don't care attitude for so long, because in order to have that, we need someone else to be funding it, right? All of these things come with some survival mechanism. Okay, so in order to cover shameful up, and remember, these are always happening at the same time. You may only see one expression of it, but that just means the other one's right underneath. And we can shift back and forth between these two in just moments, days, weeks, whatever. They're always together. It's the two-sided lie. Shameless. This is what the addict is thinking. Well, now I just have to perform better than everybody else. And that can be literal. That can be a performance thing. I think most of the time it's more experiential, meaning we're constantly looking for just the right experience, and then I'll be okay. But of course that never comes, because we're always changing the boundary, because we're basing the perfect experience on what we're wanting or needing in the next 15 seconds. And it's usually anything that we feel safe with. It's like, as long as the drive-thru at McDonald's is open and I've got plenty of tobacco and I've got, a couple pairs of underwear, and, it could be such simple things. As long as I've got these 5 things, then I'm good. The rest of the world can just leave me alone. So don't misunderstand. On the shameless side, it can involve like super high achievement performance, but it doesn't have to be that way. Now look back into the past, and you'll recognize the times where the addict was achieving and accomplishing. This was also present, and that's why we tend to give up very easily. The minute something gets a little bit hard, we shift back to the other extreme because of what we think it means. I can't do this. This is over my head. It makes me feel stupid. It makes me look stupid. And we don't know how to move in that space yet, right? That's what recovery is about. And so we give up easily. Just forget it. But in shameless mode, we see accepting help as a sign of weakness. We think that we have to have it all together at times, that we can't make any mistakes, which is so superhuman. We feel like we are invincible. We just need to go it alone. Families even hear that a lot. You know what? If you would just get off my back, if you would just let me do what I want to do. It's like my mom always would say, even as a child and then as an adult, I'm waiting, please, please. But it's an illusion. We're not really going it alone. I need somebody else to fund it. If I want to go it alone, then I don't have the ability to do that. So I need somebody else to fund it. We become very demanding of ourselves, and this is what you see a lot in early recovery. Like, we'll go through periods where, kind of like, remember what I showed earlier, where we kind of go to rehab, feel better, leave rehab, relapse. We go through periods where as soon as we start feeling better, we start thinking, which is very dangerous because our thinking hasn't changed yet. And so what we're thinking is more relief. And so we start thinking, you know what? I'm good. I already did those things, and I already did that worksheet, and I went to a couple AA meetings, or whatever it might be. I can take it from here. I can go it alone from here. I just need everybody else to get out of my way, get off my back. And what we're doing is we're setting very unrealistic expectations for ourselves. And if families fall for that, and I've seen it often, when we're begging families, don't fall for that. They haven't changed anything. They just feel better. And I've had families say, no, we're so proud of them, and they look so much better now. And I think we've got the old, whatever, fill in the blank back. Even though, 20 days has gone by, 35 days has gone by, whatever. And there's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and they're, super family. We loved having them, but they had decided that they were satisfied, even though no real change had occurred. And I got an email from the dad about 8 months later, and he had died, gone to California and died. And I don't know what else to do. It's like, that's what it happens. That's why I stress this so much. I said this last week. The only people who don't really fully embrace this thing are the ones who don't recognize that we're dealing with life and death. As harsh as that sounds, that is what we're dealing with. So we got to take it that seriously. If one of us had cancer, man, we would all be surrendered to that. We'd be like, yeah, okay, what do we need to do? We don't know nothing. What do we need to do? And we would do exactly what the professionals suggested that we do. But with recovery, because it's behavioral, so much behavioral, or with addiction, it's so behavioral, it's such an emotional display of chaos and sympathy and compassion and all these things that we want to think of it as a rational problem to solve. And it's not. It's a very solvable problem, but it's not going to happen the way we think it should happen. And it just is what it is. Okay, so in shameless mode, we have very unrealistic expectations. And this is that I referred to earlier. It's like, I'm good, I feel good now, I feel great, I don't even think about using anymore, I just need to get back to work, get my car fixed, if you guys could just rent me a cute little house on the other side of town, and I'll be good. And we did. My family fell for that. My family did that with me. My family did that with my little brother. I've seen it over and over. It's such an amazing blessing for families to be in that position, but it doesn't play out the way we're hoping that it will play out, ever. I survived mine. Justin didn't. That's how it ends. So we've got to be serious about this. This is the entire process of recovery. Is learning for the addict. Is learning, moving, gravitating toward a place where they can embrace the idea that it's okay to ask for help. That they are acceptable even though maybe they don't feel good today. That they're forgivable, that we are forgiving, that we can be vulnerable, we can talk about what we're thinking about. Recovering, that's a reference to recovered. We don't, the minute we think we're to a point where I got this, that's the most dangerous thinking for an addict. I'm good, I got this, I've already done these 4 things, right? We always can qualify it, but I've done this and I've done that, and I did this assignment and I helped these people, and we just kind of go through our little checklist and we go, see, I'm good, I'll take it from here. That is the first stage of the relapse dynamic. I got this, because a changed person, a transformed person, has a more humble perspective, right? They're open to recognizing that's what got me here, is that thinking. So you can catch it pretty quickly, and we're open. This is, to me, I think it's one of the most effective things to do this process along with the families, because we lose our wiggle room. We can't, there's nowhere to, we can't manipulate each other anymore. We can't triangulate. We can't tell one side, well, there's this going on, and my family, they're so mean and they don't ever help me, and then we go to our families and we say, oh, they're so mean and they don't ever help me, and we can use that to manipulate, triangulation. When everybody's on the same page through the same process, it's very hard. And you guys remember last week, and if you didn't watch last week, you got to go back and watch it. It's still on our YouTube channel. That's heavy. We got down to some pretty serious stuff, but that's the level, maybe the insane level of manipulation we can get to. And not everybody gets there, but we do in some sort of way. We don't all necessarily, fake seizures, but we might pretend other things. Well, I just don't feel good. My tummy hurts. I've got a headache. I've got, which is fine. But notice what's happening when we're pulling that out. We're probably being called to account, or we've got some responsibility that we're supposed to be focusing on, and all of a sudden I got a headache. But I haven't had a headache as long as I have everything I want. Okay, so was that the last one, 35? Yeah. Okay, so now let's spend a little time on the solution, because this is critical. Okay, we know what the problem looks like, and here's the thing. At the end of the day, we really don't even need all that stuff. We spend so much time on what this condition looks like and all the masks that it can wear, so that families can recognize the manipulation of it all, what needs addressing, what doesn't need to be addressing, how it needs to be addressed in a different way. But this might be one of the most important but sad parts of this whole thing, is families aren't taught. Families aren't taught anything. So when families are left with little or no real guidance to handle a loved one's addiction, they're left to their own ideas. And these ideas usually include a lot of love and compassion and rescuing and ultimately enabling or complete disconnection, right? That's the all or nothing. Well, we've done all we can and we're done. You're not changing, because we're looking at bad behavior. So we're just thinking old Johnny is just so defiant. He just won't he just won't get his act together. And a lot of families do that. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not judging that. I haven't been in those situations, but I know that it doesn't have to be that. As you've already read, learning to love in right ways means learning what accountability and boundaries are supposed to look like. So what I would suggest, instead of complete disconnect, if you're a family that's at that point where you've tried everything, and I always put that in quotations, because what we mean as families when we say we've tried everything, what we're saying is we've tried everything we know to try. And then we get frustrated, and a lot of families who just want to disconnect. You don't have to disconnect. We just need to learn what real solutions look like. So 39, where's my page? Here we go. Here's the pages. Okay, so it sounds like contradictory, but when families begin to change, families are not the cause of this nightmare. But when families take an integral role, if nothing else but just to educate, that's the beauty. That's why Al-Anon exists. It's a really good start. And respond to us, the patient, in a different way or multiple ways, then ultimately the addict gets to a place where we don't have any choice but to change. So, not all families are willing to do that. Maybe not all families are able to do that. I don't know. A lot of families, you're talking about 75, 80, 85, 90-year-old grandmas, grandparents, sometimes parents. Maybe they are done. They've been doing this for 30 years, and that's to protect themselves emotionally and mentally, spiritually, physically. They have to just disconnect. Okay, so no judgment. But if you want to be in the game and you really want to impact in a different way, here are 5 suggestions that absolutely work. And of course, the first one is read this book. Read this ebook like a manual. Read it and reread it, because you'll gain a deeper understanding of how addiction works. It's really just, if you've been with us for a while, it's a makeup of all the, maybe not all of them, but some really important topics that we've done in the past in family group. Well, we keep repeating, right? We just rotate them. Maybe some things are worded a little bit different, but like I said in the beginning, it was kind of put together as a companion piece to teach through it. So I recognize that there's a lot of parts in here that you won't necessarily understand what you're reading, but that's why you just keep rereading and ask questions. Which, by the way, we're working on being able to do that so we can start responding to questions online. We want you to be able to interact in this group, and we're just not there yet. Okay, the second one is, this is kind of the families breaking their own denial moment, recognizing how our well-meaning behaviors from the past only produce short-term success at best. Right, and that's all those things, we get arrested with family post bail immediately because we can't stand the idea of our loved one just sitting at the county jail. That's horrifying. I mean, what parent wouldn't just rush down there and call the lawyer in the middle of the night, or call a bail bondsman in the middle of the night and go do that? I would do that. I would absolutely do that. But if you've been in this for a while, this is the time where we have to stop doing that. Okay, we're not talking about one-offs. We're talking about this is a pattern here. Every time they get in grave trouble, as families, we're always quick to rescue. So let them sit in jail for a week. We've recommended to many different families over the years, don't go bail them out. Wait until you've got everything set up, and then let it be a door-to-door thing. Months. I think one time the person was going to have to be in there for like 6 weeks. And you know, they just wanted to bail him out. They wanted to bail him out, but they also knew what was going to happen when they bailed him out. And so they hold firm, and they don't get to go home, right? That's the thing, door to door. We got to go door to door. So if you're in that place where you got a loved one and sitting in jail and you're trying to figure out what to do, don't just keep repeating the cycle and go bail them out and believe when they say, oh no, I'm so done. This has really woken me up. I'm never going to do that again. They don't have the ability not to do it again. That's the default. So unless you're going to add something to the equation, don't do it. The third one is how a family's taking back control of all of your interactions. Don't let your loved one dictate the rules. Now, I got a cramp. But I want you guys to think about that one for a minute. What does it look like when we're letting them dictate the rules? And how do they dictate rules? How do we, as the addict, dictate the rules? With our body language, with our demands, our posturing, our voice, the tone in our voice, our facial expressions, our literal dictates. I need this, I want that, you need to do this, you need to do that. We're also dictating the rules by disappearing. Nothing got me off the hook more than just disappearing. You just quit calling. And knowing that my mom, who was a single mom and super protective over her 3 boys, that would drive her insane. I mean, you talk about manipulation. So even though I had been messing up and I didn't want to face the consequences, I could roll into just disappearing and never going to talk to them again. And all of a sudden, a week or 2 or 3 or 4 might go by, and then my mom finally catches up with me, and she has a completely different attitude, and all she wants to know is, what do I need? And then the cycle repeats. What do you need? Let me take you grocery shopping. Let's get some gas in your car. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's get you some new shoes. Let's get you some new whatever. Well, heck, let's just go get you a new car. She did that for my brother once. Those are great things, but those aren't the times to be doing those things. So when we're not letting our loved one dictate the rules, we can remain loving and compassionate without being a doormat. And that's very simple. Remember, when we're in the height of our dysfunction, our brain has been rewired. Remember those ages between 8 and 12, 8 and 14. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old. So speak to us in that way. Okay, well, I need you to use your adult voice right now. And that may sound really silly, and you might feel really silly saying that, knowing that you're talking to your grown adult son or daughter. But that's what it has to be, because that's what we're responding to. And we will either respond to that or we will increase our level, and that's a test. Right? If I can increase my level of intensity and my family backs down, I just took back over the rules. And most likely about to get what I want. But if it doesn't work, okay, well that's your kid voice, that's not your adult voice, so we're going to go ahead and part company, whatever that needs to look like, and we'll pick this back up when you can talk to me with your adult voice. And yes, we're talking about this kind of conversation with grown-ups, because we're not grown up. We're very, very stuck in that adolescent brain. Which there's a section in this ebook about the brain. So get it. Be sure and call Tina and request this. And then the 5th one, this is my favorite because you don't have to think too hard about it. It's easy to implement. Just start thinking value for value. Meaning, whatever we're willing to do for the addict, we also need to require them to do something for us. And it can be simple, it doesn't matter, but here's the kicker. This is the important part. They have to do their thing first. Because in the past, we will say, hey, whatever, I'll come help clean your flower beds on Saturday if you give me $50. And our family will say, okay, yeah, well, here's your $50. See you Saturday. We're not showing up. We're not going to show up. Even if it's an emergency, remember this, an emergency on someone else's part does not constitute a crisis on our part. And so we have to start dealing with the addict in that way. But we can do it lovingly. We can still have a lot of compassion and empathy, but that's what love looks like. That is the action of love. We're just not going to maintain a relationship with you where you keep getting sicker and we keep getting sicker. But we will start implementing some new rules that will lead you to getting better while we get better. And the addict will always go kicking and screaming in some way. There's going to be some sort of pushback. Sometimes it's over the top. Sometimes it's just pouting. It's anything to get us to get our families to feel differently. Some suggestions: be smart. Don't give cash. Don't do for them what they should do for themselves. And so that's a good gauge. So as they're growing in recovery, well, that it's all relative. Well, maybe in the beginning, they're not in a position to, let's say, I don't know, well, like if they're in rehab, I think about my big thing that I demanded of my family is bring me a refrigerator and some cheese and crackers. And that they probably shouldn't have done that. But they did. That was my rule, and they did it. And I wasn't happy. I didn't agree to see them for a visit until they did it. Seriously. I mean, this is how sick we get. And but if it's something reasonable that you want to do for the addict, that's fine. But is it something that we could do for ourselves? Make a phone call. Take their recovery seriously. Demanding that they always take action too. The addict takes action too. Or the addict will stay stuck in the shameful, shameless dynamic, and the families will stay stuck in the never knowing when the next shoe is going to drop, never understanding what this really means or what that really means. All we see is just a really sick, defiant behavior, when that's the cover-up, right? That's just what we've learned as addicts, as manipulators, how to keep camouflage. That's what we've learned, to camouflage what's really going on. And if I can keep everybody believing that, I don't ever have to change anything. But remember the funding part. I can only I can only stay unchanged if someone else is funding it. And that's usually the beginning of real change. When our families finally say, absolutely, we will help you get better, but we're not doing anything that looks like it used to look. Same thing for the addicts. If you're doing one thing that you used to do, you're not changing. We got to change everything. Bible says we've got to become a new creature, completely new, transformed by the renewing of our mind. We have a thinking problem. We have a rewired brain problem. All the dramatic behaviors that we use is just, it's that default shameful, shameless, back and forth. I'm not good enough. I got to get everything I want in order to feel safe. I'm not good enough when I don't get everything I want in order to feel safe. So that means I don't feel safe unless I'm getting everything I want to feel safe. And so it's just this stuck dynamic, and we can all get stuck in it. We have been stuck in it, right? It's a long time coming. I'm going to leave it on that one. So if anybody's taking notes, 39. I'll lower it. I don't know if you can even see that much on the stream, but like I said, send Tina a message and tell them you want the manual. Just refer to it as the manual. I want the Families of Addiction manual, and I think that's what it looks like. Well, that's a big, yeah. Okay. And thank God for AI, because I'm not a graphic designer, but AI, I am getting good at AI.
That's on your website, right?
It's on. I don't know if it's on the website. We've got it on. We're kind of moving away from the website. We're doing some things with Go High Level, where we're creating basically landing pages for specific things. I know it's on Beacons, but if you go to Beacons, it's it has a price on it. So if you want it, we'll just email the link, like a free link. I'll literally send you my PDF. That's probably the best way to get it for absolutely free.
And anybody who's listening to Miles, I can do that for them. So tell them to just leave, their email address, and I will email them.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a really good manual.
I think I sent it to David's sister. Did you get it, Sharon?
I don't think I got it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we should just go through and send everybody one anyway, and you read it or not. But it's like 55 pages, and here's the table of contents. How addiction takes the whole family hostage. Mistakes families make. The real reasons behind addiction. Why the addict fails. What the addict is thinking and feeling, which is what we just did that chapter on. But there's more to that chapter. And then chapter 6 is real solutions. Like, well, that's page 36 and there's 55. So there's like 20 pages of what the solution looks like. Yeah, so it's not like this wimpy little ebook. It's really powerful, and we're actually thinking about turning it into maybe a paperback, getting like a real writer to come in and clean it up. But it's heavy stuff, but everything always comes down to the solution. When families make changes, the addict has no choice but to eventually change, because now they're out of options. But as you guys know, that can take a while to move us to that place. It's, the greater the level of pain, the greater the level of resistance. And we got to, in our dysfunction, we have developed a lot of perspectives, messed up thinking, behaviors that can take a while to undo. Heck, it can take the addict a while just to begin to recognize it and own it, admit it. That's why denial is so powerful. Okay, we're right on time. Thanks. If you do have any comments on the stream, again, I think you can make a comment. We're just not in a position to be able to respond to them, but Tina can look through them later, and we will get you an answer if you have a question or you just want to share something, or just send us the text message to Tina's phone, the 405-248-2124, and get this manual. Okay, we're gonna. Oh yeah, Eric, can you get that? Okay, Eric, our engineer is gonna sign us off. So thanks for watching on YouTube.